Breakfast Daily on all social media platforms with a WhatsApp line 0550-585-832. Starting with the daily graphic this morning.
Yes, the daily graphic says, tight Supreme riots erupt over festival. That story is on page 3. Stakeholders reach agreement on DTT infrastructure. That story is on page 19. Illegal chainsaw operators adopt tricks to evade security. Also on page 16. Finally, reopen shops of foreigners. That's coming from the government, and that story is on page 19.
Now straight to the Ghanaian Times. Let's see. 2 MPs tango over Star Times deal. And of course, the members of parliament mentioned honorably Mr. Kennedy Japan, who happens to be the head of the committee and also of the communications committee of parliament, and also Mr. Samuel George Nate, Sam George, member of parliament for Ningo Pram Pram. The full story is on page 4. MDAs must respond to audit queries within 30 days. Auditor General advocates, and the full story is on page 16 as well. And Amidu frustrated over logistics complaints. So that has been stated. We reported that on our website yesterday. Chieftaincy factions clash at Apremdo. And finally, MenzGold drags BOG SEC to court. Story is on page 26. And finally, also, sorry, I missed this one. MOC stakeholders agreed to proceed with digital migration.
Nice. Now let's take a look at the Independent. We trust China with our eyes open. That's coming from Shirley Ayoko Butchred. I think that's a good one. That story is on page 2. And Ghana-China relations, we must tighten our laws. That's coming from Dr. Lloyd Amoa. And that story is on page 2 as well.
Now the Daily Statesman. Sam George, Kennedy Japan fights over Star Times deal.
God, they made peace after that, by the way, just so you guys know.
Now Ghanaians abroad demand swift prosecution of corrupt officials. And of course, there's a picture here of Martin Amidu, special prosecutor. IMF exposes NDC's ignorance, vindicates Dr. Baumia on $2 billion Sino-Hydro deal. Interesting. So that's what we have on the front page of the Daily Statesman.
Now let's take a look at the Chronicle. Blows in Parliament over Star Times deal. It's a picture here of the MP of Asin Central, Kennedy Japan. Money games at GNPC. That story is on page 14. No compromise on security at Kotoka International Airport Terminal 3, GIS boss. And that story is on page 7. Now finally, this is a very interesting story. Roll over Bonue Kente. Adanwase claims rights to festival. I think there's enough Kente for all of us. We don't have to fight over who's going to do the festival. But you can read more of that on page 3 of the Chronicle.
Well, Gold Street Business says here that stakeholders agree on digital migration infrastructure. And Auditor General accuses members for aiding corruption as ICAG holds lecture on annual report. 10 million jobs to be created in 5 years as EU others support Ghana's vocational education training. And also government to boost public investment. Full stories on page 4 of the Gold Street Business. And finally, US-China trade battle can affect Ghana's trade prospects. President Akufo-Addo did say this at the last UN General meeting.
Yes. Now let's look at the Herald. You can't choose your own court and judge. Chachu Chikata tells BOG lawyers in Unibank case. Gabi sacks NPP communications director. What happened? And MenzGold sues BOG SEC over unfair treatment. Resumes dividend payment today.
Now, let's take a look finally in respect to the papers. The Weekend Crusading Guide, it says, Gold Business Blues. MenzGold knocks BOG SEC. praised court to pull stopper on regulatory agencies, and MPs in brawl over Star Times deal. Kennedy Japan, Sam George slag it out. You know what they said afterwards was that Kennedy Japan said that Honorable Kennedy Japan says he has a black belt in Taekwondo.
You're kidding.
Yes, and Sam George also says he's a fisherman's son.
What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, he'll be there. Also, finally here, the front page of the Crusading Guide, Western NDC gurus sure of Bagben's victory.
But
So,
I like the fact that they were
against all
able to laugh about it afterwards.
Yes,
you know,
yes,
like
yes.
Kennedy Japan said Sam George was like, he asked Sam George, but why didn't you tell me? Because it happened,
Yes.
it was over some events that Sam George attended.
The Imani organized the event.
And then Sam George said, I called you, but you didn't pick up. And then Kennedy said, because you're not a woman.
Because you're interested.
I was just dying on
now,
that.
online stories?
Yes, online stories. Asawase killings, Muntaka wants minister dragged to parliament over set report. I'm reading from citynewsroom.com, by the way. NDC's future with Mahama bleak. That's coming from Ricketts Hagan. Geba, Communication Ministry and others to hold fruitful meeting on DDT. Geba Communication Ministry.
DTT.
Yes. Did I say?
You said DDT.
Oh, geez. I'm being misled by
misled.
What's the name of that newspaper?
You carry on. Carry on.
Sorry, DTT.
The Ministry of Communication is dealing in DDT now. Carry on.
MenzGold. You see, I was trying to follow the thing, the screen.
Okay.
MenzGold to pay customers their monies from Friday. So this is good news for all the MenzGold customers, and my reputation and personality alone can't fight corruption. That's coming from Amidou, and I couldn't agree more. He does have a strong reputation and a strong personality, but we all agree that we need stronger institutions. So.
Okay, so we will just introduce our guest for today. We're joined by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Okaikoi North, Honorable Issahh Fuseini. Good morning, welcome to Breakfast Daily.
Yeah, good morning, thanks for having me.
How are you?
Yeah,
I haven't seen you in a while.
Yes, I've been around. You know, when Parliament is on recess, we try to engage in other.
So, what are the other things you've been doing?
You know, I have to put body and soul together, so you have to be running around just so you can.
And you've been very quiet after the Liverpool game.
Oh, it's what competition was that again? What's the competition again?
Honorable Issahh Fuseini happens to be a strong Liverpool fan.
Oh, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's game, though.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow's game.
Let's see how it turns out.
That's a fixture that I am more interested in.
Interested.
I mean, we are the informed team, so I mean, there's no choice.
We'll see about that. Now, MenzGold drags Bank of Ghana and SEC to court, and the story I'm reading from page 26 of the Ghanaian Times this morning says MenzGold has dragged the Bank of Ghana and the Securities and Exchange Commission to court, accusing the two statutory institutions of hurting its business. So the gold dealers in a suit filed yesterday, a copy of which has been intercepted by media houses, is asking the court to slap aggravated damages on the two institutions. So amongst others, when you read the story also on citynewsroom.com, you know that they want the court to place an order or to grant an order stopping the Bank of Ghana especially from publishing notices that are derogatory to its business, amongst others. And flowing from this particular lawsuit as well, or on the backdrop of this, is the fact that from Friday, people or investors with MenzGold, depositors will start being paid dividends from time to time. So on this particular MenzGold back and forth, Honorable.
And before we hear from you, we should tell our viewers that we're expecting Rockson Dafeamekpor, yes, who's the MP of South Dayi. He'll be joining us soon.
MenzGold and the issues arising. It's good that they have told their, for want of a better word, depositors. Whatever they deposited them, whether they deposited cash or they deposited gold, that they are going to start payment of dividends from Friday, which is today.
Today, yeah.
I'm sure by noon we're going to get some feedback. MenzGold and issues arising. From where I sit, I think that there's been some lapses in the system that a company has been able to explore. And for a company like that, they kept insisting that they are not a deposit-taking company. And because they are not taking deposits in the form of cash, they did not, or the Bank of Ghana could not have brought them under Act 931, Banks and Special Deposit Taking Act, and it was quite difficult for some of us to take. And for me, I was privileged that the Finance Committee of Parliament did start to engage MenzGold, and this was probably over 6 months ago, and we still kept finding out whether they were actually taking deposits. But you see, when customers walk in with cash and say that, well, I'm paying for gold and I'm going to be given a certain amount of gold, and that gold is going to be deposited somewhere else, and somebody's going to trade in the gold, and whatever profits they make, I get my share of it in form of dividends. That's the model that I understood. But as to whether they were taking deposits, we thought that they were taking deposits. They insisted that they were not taking deposits, and for them not to be taking deposits meant that it was difficult for the Bank of Ghana to regulate them. Similarly, for anybody, commodities, anything that you're trading in, being a primary market or a secondary market, you fell under the SEC authority. And that as well, they said they didn't, or they weren't trading in it. And then we understood that they were trading in gold, and they had some form of license from the Minerals Commission. It's been a whole hell of it's rather unfortunate that we have come this far. But you see, it's also good that at least they are telling us that they are going to start paying deposits. Or what? Dividends. They call it dividends. I don't know whether it's interest, I don't know, but they decide to call it dividends. It's for me that whatever promise they've given their customers, by noon we'll get to know how it's going, and having seen what is happening in the banking sector, and for how much it's costing the taxpayer, I hope and pray that we find some sort of end to all of this, because it will be quite devastating for us not to be able to retrieve depositors' monies from some of these entities. You see, for me, it's a very simple model that a bank or anything does. They buy and sell money, and as to when they buy, they get them, don't use it for purposes for which they add, and they lock it up somewhere, use it as their piggy bank and regulation and all that. Parliament has a role to play. That is why the Finance Committee did engage the Bank of Ghana and other regulatory bodies around, so that if there is a sort of a shortfall or a lacuna in the regulatory framework in some of the businesses that some of these entities do, we are able to come up with the appropriate legislation to ensure that these things are forestalled and they don't happen again. MenzGold is a very big test for all of us. For me, I pray that everybody that's deposited for the want of a better word again, in the amount of money is able to retrieve their investments. If it's possible for us to regularize the business of MenzGold, it will be a plus. But you see, some of us have been asking some questions, and it's been asking for transparency in the business of MenzGold itself. People have deposited cash and so-called or have bought gold. How much money have people deposited in there? What is the stock of gold that a company has? Does it correspond to the amount of money people have deposited? Where is this trading happening? And how transparent is the trading activity? You expect that when a company like this is doing such a business, they will file their annual returns, which will become public documents at the Registrar General. So I should be able to walk to the Registrar Generals and pick the financial statements of MenzGold from 2014, 2015, 2016, and see that within those years, this is how much money they got, and on one side of the balance sheet, and this is how much stock of gold they have or trading activity is happening. All of this is shrouded in some form of secrecy, and it's interesting that nobody's asking those questions. But It's good
well,
for me.
The SEC, to be fair, the SEC has been asking those questions, and according to the SEC, MenzGold is not, as an institution, they are not the relevant information they need to make a concrete decision on the way forward.
If somebody opens shop and start taking monies from people and does not fall in under any regulatory regime, it is dangerous. It is very dangerous.
But is it their fault, or we should have, ensured this doesn't happen?
Yes, we, as a regulator, in this case, the difficulty was to point out to a specific regulator and say you were supposed to regulate this activity, and you probably reneged on your responsibility. It is difficult to point out to a particular one. But you see, on the other side, on the flip side, a lot of times these things happen. They are noise. And people who carve models like this get legislation to follow them. It's true, when an entity like Data Bank started some 25 years or so ago, we didn't have the legislation, but they chatted, or they went on and legislation followed them. Now we have a fairly regulated investment banking environment. And so if MenzGold will be quite transparent with its activity, then we could find a way, if there are relevant or some legislation that we could pass to ensure that its business is regularized. I'm sure that as a parliament we'll be able to have a look at it and get these things going. Because
have we been fair to MenzGold, respectfully? And I'll bring in the honourable.
As to whether we've been fair or not, I think that it's from what happened in the banking sector.
Them guilty.
No, from what's happening in the banking sector, it's quite scary to think that we potentially have another case of the sort on our hands. And I'll make a point again. Parliament as a body, the Finance Committee of Parliament, we started engaging MenzGold months ago, all to make sure that we don't get to where we are now. For me, I am waiting till noon to see if the promise that MenzGold is giving is going to happen. On the other side, them going to court and all that, I think that it's I want to
thank
stop
you.
Before I use the word,
we are joined by Honorable Rockson
Dafeamekpor.
Yes,
we are joined by Honorable Rockson Dafeamekpor. He's the Honorable Member of Parliament for South Dayi. Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast Daily.
Good morning to you. Good morning to your viewers. It's my privilege to be here.
Thank you. We are discussing MenzGold issue. MenzGold has dragged Bank of Ghana and SEC to court for a declaration by the courts. According to lawyer Kwame Akufo, they are seeking a declaration that MenzGold is not, or Bank of Ghana and the SEC, for instance, do not have purview and they do not have jurisdiction, more or less, to handle MenzGold. And also, they're also seeking an order for Bank of Ghana to stop publishing notices about their company because it's derogatory and is inimical to their business.
Yes, let me use the opportunity to say good morning to my constituents in South Dayi. Specifically, if you look at their first relief, a declaration that the plaintiff's business does not fall within the present legislated scope of the Banks and Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions Act 2016, Act 930. Then the second one, a declaration that plaintiff's business activities does not fall within the present legislated scope of the Security Industry Act 2016, Act 929. Essentially what they are saying is that the kind of business model they are running is not legislated upon, or to the extent that the SEC and the BOG is seeking to regulate the activities to that. That's the expect. And why not? He just made the point that when Data Bank began, we didn't have the legislation. The legislation followed the activities, and now it appears that we have a fairly regulated investment banking environment. It could be another prototype of that incident. But the point we are making is MenzGold is doing business. And I want to make some correction here. They are not taking money. They are not taking money. when they come to you, what they do is that they ask you to invest in gold bars. So whatever money you have, they ask you to acquire the equivalent value in gold, and they trade in the gold. And according to their model, when they earn dividend, in fact, they promise you a certain percentage if you invest a certain quantum of money in the gold trading that they supposedly are doing. So I can understand why the lawyer will say that if you say we are taking deposits, we are not taking monies from people. Persons are buying gold bars and depositing it with them for them to trade. Now, then I'll be asking whether the PMMC, which is the Precious Mineral Mining and company, is aware of what they do. They say yes, they've been doing businesses through them. And now, are we saying that what MenzGold is doing is illegitimate? If it's illegitimate, why don't we shut it down? We can't shut it down because it's uncharted waters. That is why they are in court. But the assurance to the public should be that...
Please explain what you mean by the uncharted waters.
Yes, because they are saying that, no, the kind of business model we have, the present legislation does not...
But that's what they are saying.
Exactly. So let the court determine. There are lots of laws. There are lots of financial legislations that cover businesses.
I was getting the sense that you seem to be agreeing with them.
Yes. If they can push it, why not? But we should target the business unnecessarily. That's my fear. Because, look, the number of people I have...
Do you think it's unnecessarily?
Unnecessarily.
Okay, why
because
that word?
We should be careful that if indeed SEC, the legislative powers of SEC does not cover what the kind of model that MenzGold is running, then they are misfiring. And indeed the Bank of Ghana. So let the court
So who is supposed to regulate MenzGold? They can't act on their own as well.
You see, they have established a company. So they come under Act 179, the Companies Act, properly legislated. What is their objectives as stated in the company's registration documents? Their stated objectives. What kind of business are they running?
Gold trading.
Gold trading. So that will fall under PMMC. PMMC is the state established company that ensures that all trades in minerals, in precious mineral. In fact, that's the expression. In precious mineral is done through them. Is MenzGold running the business through PMMC? That's what we should be asking. But nobody appears to be asking that because gold is a precious mineral. You understand my point? So I am saying until we clear this hurdle, we shouldn't target the business.
I want to suggest to you at this point, really briefly, that their actions may amount to the company actually falling under the purview of all these bodies. Let me say something here. Their activities have been, well, this is just a personal research, engaging in illegal deposit taking contrary to Section 6.1 of the Banks and Specialized Deposit Taking Institutions Act, that's Act 930. Now, engaging in unlicensed mineral activities contrary to Section 99.1 of the Minerals and Mining Act. Also, engaging in illegal capital markets activity in breach of Section 109 of the Securities Industries and Exchange Act. And finally, a private company inviting the public to deposit money or invest in its business
without having listed on the stock
in
exchange.
breach of Section 265 of the Companies Act.
Yes. And you see,
Rockson, hold on.
So about 4 bodies can assume jurisdiction.
Hold on. That is somebody's research. It's not as if they are not in court. They are in court.
Okay.
So that my submission will be different if I have not spotted their rate. I've spotted the rate. I have carefully looked at the relief they are seeking. Whether or not they will succeed is for me immaterial. What is material for me is that they are contesting the positions taken by both the SEC and the BOG on their operations in court.
Okay.
That is very important. And so to that extent, we must ensure that persons whose investments, let me categorize it like that, persons whose investments are with them do not go down the drain. That's what is critical for me, because I have constituents who have invested in their model of business, and they are running into difficulties because they assure them that they will receive payments are not coming. We must ensure that this one too doesn't go in flames or go up in flames like others have. So many names have been used to describe the model, a Ponzi scheme and all that. But once they have gone to prick the jurisdiction of the court to hear the matter, I am restrained in commenting.
We'll come back.
I just wanted to make a quick
No, when we come back, we'll go for a quick break. When we come back, you make
All
your
right.
point. This is Breakfast Daily, the news review segment. Stay tuned.
Live music, interviews, poetry, and more with your favorite personalities. Be our guest on Saturdays from 2 to 4 p.m. for the most exciting moments on TV. Join Kojo Akoto Boateng for real entertainment right in your living room. Saturday Live on City TV and City 97.3 FM.
Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on City TV. Before the break, we were discussing MenzGold taking SEC and Bank of Ghana to court. But the next story we're going to look at is, of course, stakeholders have reached an agreement on the DTT infrastructure. I'm reading from page 19 of the Daily Graphic. It says here, stakeholders on the digital terrestrial television DTT migration project yesterday reached a resolution to maintain an independent company, the Central Digital Transmission Company Limited, that's the CDTC, to operate and manage the DTT infrastructure. I'm going to quote Honorable Kojo Nkrumah, who is the Minister for Information designate. He says the earlier decision to have an independent company, the Central Digital Transmission Company Limited, operate and manage the infrastructure with DTT remains unchanged. The next meeting of the stakeholders is scheduled to take place within the next 4 weeks. So it looks as though we're making some progress. We'll hear from, you spoke last, so we'll hear from.
Okay.
Yeah. Even before I go on the issue of DTT, I just want to make a small intervention on the MenzGold issue. And Act 179, companies are supposed to file their annual returns. And it's a form that states the officers of the company and its activity and all that. Included in the annual return is also audited financial statements that once filed, they become public documents, and so anybody should be able to walk in there to see the balance sheet of MenzGold, their income statement. As simple as that. That is not available. And it worries me because I want to see
sanctions for that.
There are penal sanctions.
Registrar General's
there are
duty.
penal sanctions, but for a company that is open shop and taking deposits. One of the
They're not taking
They're not
deposits.
taking deposits.
You see,
They're
the fact
taking
that
investment.
MenzGold is saying they are not taking deposits doesn't mean that they are not taking
Thank you very much.
In my
It's an
definition,
investment.
You see,
in my definition of their model, they are
It
taking
happens to be the
deposits.
positive.
That is my
Fuseini,
conclusion.
Fuseini, it is very dangerous for you to say
Yeah.
that.
That's why
how
I'm
he
saying that's
understands
my
it.
understanding of their
What you are
model.
saying
But when
that
you
I
go to
don't
their
don't say
offices,
it
they
on
even
paper,
have
but
it
doesn't
there.
mean it's
They
not
even have
happening.
papers
My
there.
understanding of the
Let
model.
us speak to what
That you're
exactly
My
is happening.
understanding of the model that MenzGold is doing, I might not understand, but as currently, as to my understanding of it, they are taking deposits.
Your understanding is
That's
wrong.
my understanding.
Okay.
Your understanding
I'm
is
saying
wrong.
my understanding.
Okay,
Okay, let's move on to the DTT story.
Let's move on. So I would expect that when I go to it, I'll see their balance sheets. How much?
All right, well,
Your
let's
understanding is wrong. No one can show you a
That is my
receipt from
understanding.
MenzGold
That's
that
it.
says that I paid to MenzGold 350,000.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Then
yes.
I
They're
say,
taking
No.
investment, not
It's
just
investment.
They're taking what?
investment.
You
I mean,
buy gold
They're
and
taking what?
deposit with them.
Investment.
We can all have
You
opinions
buy
at this
gold
point.
and deposit with them. That's
So
what
there's
they
a
are doing.
deposit
Where do you buy the gold?
aspect to
You
it.
know how much gold they have and stuff.
Why?
So
You
it
know how
forms
much gold
it
they
serves
have?
as
You
a
know,
form
I
of
don't know.
security
You know where
because
they
you're
trade
given
your
a
gold?
certificate of assault. Are you not?
Exactly.
So it serves as a form of security.
you're
So why not
investing
the
gold.
SEC?
Deposit taking
You are
means you are
investing
giving them
gold.
money.
So
to
you are
trade
investing
gold.
gold. You are not even depositing
Exactly,
gold.
ma. Exactly,
Let's
ma.
continue, please.
They are depositing gold. They are
Yeah.
not trading.
You are investing
Because if
gold.
they
You're
are
not
trading, they will
depositing
fall
gold.
under sec.
Exactly.
Anyway, DTT. For me, it's that to come to the table. Giba, the ministry, film producers, all the relevant stakeholders. I think that it's a positive, and I rather would have left this whole issue to them. It's a bit technical. I have been trying to follow the issues as to whether there's a contract between Ghana and Star Times, as to whether Star Times is being given some advantage that others have been what?
Denied.
It's all very fluid. But for me, it's also good that we are able to discuss some of these issues. It's good that we are able to force the regulators to come to the table, to listen to the stakeholders, so they have some input into the final migration to digital TV. But for me, you see, the media landscape itself, it goes more beyond that for me. The media landscape itself needs some sort of refining. Because when I tune into TV, some of the channels I see and some of the programs, I wonder how or who actually licenses television stations for them to be putting out programs like that, and how it affects us as a people, our culture, everything in this country. So I think that we need some cleaning up within that whole spectrum.
Which programs are you referring to?
Which programs? And I once saw a juju man sitting down and chanting money. I mean, it was
I thought you were
scary to
talking
me.
about like foreign
I thought
influence
this
or
guy
something.
probably is causing inflation. Edu could quite push us out of our single digit inflation targeting, because it's creating money without its corresponding productivity.
But
That was
it's
scary.
an expression of
That
our
was scary.
culture.
So it will make more money available in the system, which might drive up the prices of general goods and services. And it was scary to me. I think that whole spectrum needs cleanup. For me, it's good that the stakeholders are sitting. It's good that they have said themselves, or they have a roadmap that they are working towards. And I think we should leave it to the ministry and stakeholders to charter a way for us to all follow. That's that for me.
Honorable Dr. Dafeamekpor, on the issue of them having set up the Central Digital Transmission Company Limited, are you satisfied?
Yeah.
Well, you see, nothing has changed according to the deputy minister. That's what it's saying. Nothing has changed. What they are seeking to do.
I think what he means, they've come together, so now they are working together as opposed to before, where people felt left out.
You see, it's
right?
a suspicion.
Like Jeba feeling left out.
Is a suspicion. I have rarely commented on this matter because I'm restrained. When I was with Haibo Jabin and Swenko, we acted for Star Times in court, in the commercial court case.
Okay.
We appeared before Justice Barbara Kayentu. That was where we fought. We litigated the matter. Star Time lost, but I did believe in the merits of their case then. So you can understand the hesitation with which I want to deal with this matter. But the suspicion arose when the government cajoled, as it were, Star Times to withdraw the litigation, the arbitration they were pursuing in London. When we lost the matter here, then they decided to spring into action. There's an arbitral clause in the earlier agreement, the terminated agreement. So then they pursued it in ICC in London. So when that was pending, the present government cajoled them to withdraw because they
cajoled them. Is that scientific, Rockson?
No, allow him. Unless you feel offended
can
by his choice of
Yes,
words.
of course I am.
No, you can't
If you are not offended by his choice of words, please allow him to go on.
Government cajoled them, I say for
what's the meaning of cajole? To cajole somebody?
Force somebody to.
No. To cajole?
To
No,
encourage.
look it up.
See.
Really?
No, yes, look it up.
Honorable, please proceed.
Can you make your
Honorable,
point,
please
please?
proceed.
Yes. Now they were cajoled to withdraw. With the assurance that there are better opportunities coming. So, to further litigate this matter, and they were promised this job. Yes. So they withdrew the matter from ICC, and
Honorable, we know this for a fact that they were promised this job.
yes,
That Star Times, the government of Ghana promised Star Times this job.
Hold on. You see, the suspicion is that until the matter was withdrawn from the arbitration center in ICC, they were not offered this job.
So you are just linking the two, but you don't know this as a fact.
That is the linkage. That is the linkage.
No, I just want
that
to
is the
establish
linkage
that.
people are drawing, and I believe
So
in
you're
it.
basing it on what you've heard people say.
Yes, and I believe in it.
That's
speculation.
Hold on,
That's
hold
not
on.
fact. You're
Let me
still
tell you
speculating.
the history of this case.
Oh, we know the history.
Yes. So when DTV, when they won the contract, then they assigned their interest to Star Times China. All right. The earlier company was a Ghanaian registered
Yes, Star
company.
Times Ghana. We know that.
All right.
So,
okay. So when they were promised this job, then of course something must give. Then they withdrew the matter and they were offered this contract. But a contract is yet to be executed. They only have an MOU.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's only an MOU. That's
Like the Zambian
that's a
experience.
confusion. That I must agree that there appears to be some confusion, but it's an MOU. It's an MOU,
Not a contract.
memorandum of understanding that will give you this job, and then the value of the job is $95 million. Okay, but I disagree with Fuseini when he says that this program will help to sanitize the contents of media houses. That is the work of the media
but he
commission.
didn't say that.
No,
No,
that's not what he said.
I said on another.
There's a linkage.
No, I didn't link.
Let's not link it for him.
Okay.
In any case.
Let
me finish. What I gathered was that a program of this nature will help to, because the contents of some programs that are on our airwaves now leaves much to be desired. But it's not the juju people alone. We are actually commoditizing faith. The religious, the Christian institutions are also doing it. That is why the traditional practitioners have also jumped in.
But I don't think he was critiquing the traditional religion. He was just saying that
No,
the quality of the content.
Yes. But that is it. Because when you go to the traditional practice, the juju people, they say they can conjure money for you. And we have allowed them to come on TV to demonstrate this. Why? Because we have allowed Christian leaders to also demonstrate this in churches.
Okay.
Okay, that's the point
Fair
I'm
enough.
making.
Okay.
That you can't criticize these people and leave these ones out.
Okay.
Okay, to the extent that even Malams, the Malams who also profess the Muslim faith, have also joined in. So we have a problem.
Okay.
And apart from that, I mean, what kills me is the telenovelas, where our women and children spend hours,
and men too.
well, hours on end, and some men hours on end watching this, and they are all foreign. Okay, and this DTT program, I don't see how it will sanitize it. And people also try to confuse it with the 300.
The confusion.
Exactly.
So you're happy that they are working together? Are you happy that they are
that
united now? And they
Sorry?
are you happy that they are all working together?
If the suspicion
main issue was who was going to manage the platform.
Yeah.
And the ministry have been saying over the time that it's going to be the Central Digital Transmission Company.
Yes.
But then it appeared that Giba was of the opinion that indirectly it will still be managed by
the Chinese.
But then after the stakeholder conference, it appears from what the minister designate for information is saying that moving on, everybody are on the same page that is going to be managed by the Central Digital. So are we?
We are all happy.
What the deputy minister failed to say is that this.
You mean minister designate? Information minister
very well,
designate.
but he's still a deputy for now.
Really?
Okay.
Well, let's move on.
Please wrap up.
So the point he failed to say, deputy minister, and minister designate. Because he's still functioning.
Okay, make your point, please.
You see, but the point he failed to make is that whose company is the central? What's the name?
Central Digital Transmission.
Whose company is that?
No, it's actually like a group, right? So it's not necessarily, it's run by local stakeholders.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, so the fear is that if this will not be influenced by the Chinese, then hurry.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
And you see, when you even try to link what is happening in this DTT spectrum of content, it's about also licensing. Even on the spectrum, the more of licenses that are available. I'm sure we had just about 5 licenses. The license approval process will be more stringent to make sure that people don't easily get channels for them to go ahead for lack of content. So they tend to be creative and put some of this content out there. Yeah. So it's in the final analysis. And I even hear along the line something like an enhanced contract or something with StarTimes that will actually expand the spectrum and ensure that we even have regional licenses, so people don't have to have national licenses where they have to pay so much. In fact, we've seen what's happening within the media landscape as a result of what happened in the banking sector. Some media houses actually downsizing and all that. I think that it has some.
Okay.
The
licenses
are already regionalized.
Okay.
There are some licenses you can't transfer from Accra to the
border. Just to move on to issues of the economy. Thank you very much, Honorable Issahh Fuseini. I'll have to cut in here because I want us to move on to this very, very important story, I must say. I'm reading from graphiconline.com. It says IMF team confirms government's assessment of the economy. And it says here that and I'll start with you, Honorable Rockson. The International Monetary Fund's team, which visited Ghana between 17 to 27 September to conduct the 7th review of Ghana's extended credit facility, has published its preliminary findings on Ghana's economic prospects. And on the website of the IMF, the team observed the growth prospects remain strong, supported by a robust oil and cocoa production. Inflation has remained in single digits, and also S&P upgraded Ghana's rating from B- to B with a stable outlook in September 2018. And also finally it says, on the team's observation of the city's performance, the IMF stated that Ghana has been affected by the volatile environment for emerging and frontiers markets, which has exerted pressure on the currency, resulting in the cedi depreciation. So it seems the IMF have hope for Ghana's economy. They see it as quite strong and resilient as it stands right now. Yeah. And also, they also came out to make a declaration, more or less, or a preliminary declaration on whether or not the 2 billion constitutes a loan or not. And they said it's not a loan.
What declaration was that?
No, they have come out with a declaration.
Where
the 2 billion. It was a preliminary report that came prior to this one.
No, they didn't decline.
They declined to comment. Well, I haven't seen it.
Yes.
But the point is this: have you ever read all IMF reports on our economy? They've always expressed sentiments of hope. They've never. All the IMF reports on our economy, they've never stated any. Yes.
Wow.
What are you saying?
Wow.
But let's comment on the economy.
Exactly. Let's focus on the economy. Let's go and dig the report. The annual report.
Let's focus on the economy.
There's never been any year that they painted gloomy picture for the country.
Even in this report. Please.
No, Honorable, you have your chance.
Especially in all reports, they will start positive, and they will also say these are the rooms for progress.
By saying things look.
You can improve here. They don't say things look gloomy.
They don't
say everything is gloomy. No.
This is IMF language.
Yes. But they don't say things are gloomy.
Exactly. So nobody should be jumping like General Seydou Ketia said. It is in your pocket that will feel whether the economy is performing well or not. Our currency has depreciated 20%.
Really?
And
which currency is that?
Why?
Which currency
The
is
Ghanaian cedi. What are you saying?
The Ghana cedi.
Yes.
When? From what period to what?
Honorable.
You get since you took over power. 20% when it's not true.
Honorable. Let's stick to the facts.
You took over power when the cedi was 4.1.
We're going to go on a break. If
4.1.
Really?
The value of the cedi is now 5.1.
Honorable.
What percentage?
5.1 where?
5.1.
Where?
Oh, it was not 4.1 to begin with.
Please let's not do.
But let's stick to
Please
what we
let's
are
not do the back and forth. Let's focus
so
on the
let me
story.
finish.
Yes, briefly.
Have you seen the BOJ report on the economy?
Yeah.
Have you seen our import cover?
We've always had import issues.
Exactly.
Though, so it's nothing
You
new.
see, when we had it,
Oh, you can't fix that in 18 months, though, right?
really?
You're supposed to fix all our
Why? So when do you fix
trade
it?
deficit
hold on. So when do
in
you
2
fix
months?
it? When do you fix it? You said we couldn't fix it because we were incompetent.
Okay.
All right? And you can't fix it.
Okay.
So are you competent?
So
or
you
also
expect
incompetent?
us to start experiencing net positive in
Exactly.
2 years?
Particularly because we have borrowed in excess of 40 billion.
Okay.
Ghana cedis. We borrowed that much. They've called us for emergency city. Do you know essentially what we are doing? We are approving loans. We've approved 5 loans. 5
In this city.
Why? I will show you the other paper.
You have approved.
Why?
You have approved 5.
Honorable Fuseini, please let him have his time and then you come in with your report. So please
we are just
borrowing money.
We are just borrowing and pumping money into the economy, and we can't show concrete projects for it. When you ask them, they will tell you free SHS. Partially instituted, though implemented, with fought with difficulties. Okay. So as for the IMF comments, it is a normal statement for them to make. But when you speak to the average man on the streets, when the economy is robust, doing well, you will feel it. You will know. And I'm sure your people in the studio, everybody, when you want to interview them, you will hear the things they will say.
But there's a macro perspective of the economy and then a micro, right?
Okay.
So what you're feeling in your pocket is one thing.
Yes.
And the work that's being done to improve things, that's also another
they
thing,
keep
right?
saying that the work that they are doing, external financing, external leveraging, now they have plans to go and borrow 50 billion. They say it's being structured. If you borrow the money and it's not reflecting in the economy at the micro level, it's not reflecting. Businesses are not developing, companies are downsizing. He's just said it. The financial sector is in crisis. And I want to ask, why is it that a bank, why do we have to raise the minimum capital for a bank from 100 million to 400 million in order for a bank to operate as a bank?
I think the banks, they didn't necessarily fail only because they couldn't meet the requirement, but mainly due to corporate governance, right, which is completely different. From not meeting the mark.
You are insisting that they should meet the minimum capital of 400 million. The money we are asking that they should come and lock it up.
No, I think that's a bit exaggerated.
It's not being exaggerated.
Okay.
I am telling you.
You feel the 400 million is a bit excessive?
It's a bit high. They should rather structure the banking sector in such a way that we can have small banks, medium banks.
But we have microfinances.
The microfinance belongs to a different category. That is microfinance. I am saying that we should be able to have banks that belong to a very small category that can do a certain trading. You can't handle certain projects. Then we have medium banks. Then we can have A-class banks. Okay. You see, like we have the rural banks. We know where they belong.
Please be wrapping up.
You see, so instead of structuring the sector like this, you are just slapping everybody to meet a certain minimum, high up minimum requirement. That is what's killing them. And you are doing so, you are not giving them leverage. You are asking them that there's a deadline they must meet. Even others want to merge, they are running into difficulties. Okay. So the economy is not as robust and as good looking as my brother want to rely on the IMF report.
Thank you. Honorable.
And let me just take from the last point Honorable Rockson Dafeamekpor was making as to whether all banks will have to slap the of capital. And you realize that banks, they always had the option to remain savings and loans. The regime was very different. If they didn't have the requisite capital, why did they even go to that stage? And it's scandalous, and it beats my imagination that some of these banks who even graduated from savings and loans to universal banks, they could not even at the time meet those capital requirements. How they got their licenses, some of those things are just things that we should actually interrogate and hold people who are culpable responsible for some of the things that have happened in the banking sector.
Fuseini, your government granted some of the license during your tenure.
There you go. You see, when you start this, it just politicizes. I will tell you that. You see, this whole issues, it came out way back in 2014 when the quality asset review of these banks were done. If we had taken action, if we had, for want of a better word again, if we had the to have taken those actions,
let's just do two strong arms. Let's move on.
You see,
look it up.
I'll look the year up.
Taking action back in 2014, when we realized that some of those banks had issues, we probably would not have been paying in excess of 10 billion in 2018 to fix the financial sector. And it's one of the reasons why we are where we are today.
But Honorable, IMF is saying we're doing okay, but again,
IMF is saying we are doing okay. You see, IMF will come, people are struggling.
Yeah.
Don't forget, we took over an economy that was growing at 3.6%. Within 12 months, we were able to take it in excess of 8%. You see, because of something, IMF tells us that today, our local revenue generation, it's a problem, and we know it. That's why mid-year we brought in some measures like the income tax issues, like the luxury vehicle, to fix some of these things.
But we are not saying you move the economy from taxation to production. That would have fixed the revenue. Where are we on that?
Of course, if you look at the number of what we call nuisance taxes that we have eliminated over time, you see that our focus on taxation.
We are not
in a regime.
I own a rickety 3.5 capacity pickup, and you are living it as a luxury vehicle.
Let him finish.
We are not in a regime where you tax condoms and you tax cutlasses.
You said you move the economy from taxation to production. That would have generated more revenue than we have now.
And so what we did was to reduce taxes in certain sectors, like the spare parts taxes, like some taxes have been removed from fuel.
But what's the
energy,
status on actually producing so that we have revenue internally?
Companies are rather winding up.
Yeah.
Companies are winding up. Companies will wind up like the banks are doing when they are internal practices. Companies. Which manufacturing company? Tell me.
Textile.
Tell me.
Textile industry. They are always complaining that they can't.
See what we have done. See what we have done to support manufacturing. Electricity prices. Water.
Fuseini, don't go there.
They are all going down.
My light bill is up.
No,
don't go there.
Is actually a bit.
Honorable, please wrap up for us.
Between 17 and 30%, your bills went down. So what are you complaining about?
You are not giving 30%.
You guys should stop. What IMF said is
you are giving like 12%.
Our growth prospect is
still negligible.
12%.
You're not helping the conversation.
Honorable Fuseini, please wrap up.
IMF has come out with this.
And don't intervene.
And by and large, we know where we're doing well and where we are falling short, and they've actually come out with the issues that we know, and it reflects in what we did mid-year. But you see, we have to also still continue with the fiscal discipline, making sure that we spend what we have, and so we don't get into where you have almost 10% deficits of the budgets. No, we are not. We'll continue the fiscal discipline, make sure that we spend what we have. Yes, there's some tightness, but I'm sure that we are also putting up measures to promote certain sectors. 1D1F is coming up upstream, and when we are able to raise some of those sectors, you see that by 2019, things are going to be much more bearable. We are in those to improve.
So we're going to build over 200 factories. by
Okay.
2019.
Of course, the minister is
Thank you.
speaking on it.
Thank you very much,
We are almost there.
Thank you.
When we are picking up steam,
Thank you very much. It's time.
They should stop talking down the economy because
Yes,
it's
just
not.
10
I think
seconds.
they should stop.
What have you done with 8 billion that you borrowed so far?
Oh, God.
Honorable Rockson Dafeamekpor is the Honorable Member of Parliament for South Dayi, and of course, Honorable Issahh Fuseini is the Honorable Member of Parliament for Okaikoi North. Honorable Issahh Fuseini, thank you very much for coming on the breakfast show. He's also another year and a Liverpool fan. Anyway, thank you very much, gentlemen.
And I'm a Man U fan.
You're a Man U fan.
Exactly.
I'm still Manchester City. I'm still Manchester City. Yes.
Chama International School. This is Breakfast Daily. We'll be right back.